A bright yellow 1930 Ford Coupe appears on screen for less than 90 minutes in a 1973 movie. 50 years later, it's the most replicated hot rod on planet Earth. Walk into any car show in America and you'll find at least 3 guys who spent $20,000 and 2 years of their lives building exact copies of this car. Why? What makes Milner's Coupe from American Graffiti so special that grown men obsess over every rivet, every dent, every imperfection? Here's the truth nobody tells you. This car wasn't built to be perfect. It was a $1,500 beater that George Lucas grabbed off a used car lot and turned into a legend with a quick paint job and some cheap chrome. The original owner probably paid more for it than Lucas did. Today, we're counting down 20 hidden facts about the most famous Ford ever built. Facts that will change everything you thought you knew about the fastest thing in the valley. Let's roll. Number 20. Purchased for $1,300 by producer Gary Kurtz. When George Lucas needed a hot rod for his breakout film, producer Gary Kurtz went hunting through California used car lots. He found this 1930 Ford 5-window coupe sitting on a lot, already equipped with something crucial that would save the production thousands of dollars. The car had a 3-inch chop top professionally done by a previous owner. That chop was the deciding factor. Lucas and Kurtz looked at dozens of potential cars, but kept coming back to this one because that roof work was already finished. Kurtz paid $1,300 cash and drove it away. For context, that's about $8,000 in today's money. A bargain considering what needed to be done to make it camera ready. The car was rough, incomplete, and far from beautiful, but it had good bones and that crucial chop top that gave it the aggressive profile Lucas wanted for his bad boy character John Milner. Number 19. Originally primer gray with red fenders and tuck and roll interior. The car Gary Kurtz bought looked nothing like the iconic yellow coupe audiences fell in love with. When it arrived for the film, it was only partially finished in dull primer gray with bright red fenders. The mismatched paint job gave it a work-in-progress look common among hot rodders who built their cars on tight budgets. The interior told a similar story. Red and white tuck and roll upholstery covered the seats, looking more like a 1950s diner booth than a street racer's cockpit. This wasn't the menacing black interior moviegoers remember. The whole car screamed unfinished project, which ironically made it perfect for what Lucas had in mind. He didn't want a pristine show car. He wanted something that looked like a real high school kid's hot rod, built with more enthusiasm than money. The primer and red fenders actually helped sell that authenticity before the transformation began. Number 18. Henry Travers oversaw the entire build as transportation manager. George Lucas knew exactly what he wanted, but he needed someone who understood hot rods to make it happen. Enter Henry Travers, the film's transportation manager, who became the unsung hero of American Graffiti's automotive success. Travers wasn't just some Hollywood logistics guy pushing paperwork. He was a genuine hot rod enthusiast who understood the culture Lucas was trying to capture. His job was to oversee the coupe's construction into a legitimate street rod that could survive weeks of filming. Travers coordinated with local Northern California shops since that's where production would take place. He managed timelines, budgets, and ensured every modification stayed true to early 1960s hot rod aesthetics. More importantly, Travers understood the difference between a show queen and a street fighter. He made sure this coupe looked like something a real kid would build, not some over-polished trailer queen. His expertise kept the car authentic while making it reliable enough for movie work. Number 17. Stock fenders removed to create traditional highboy look. One of the first major changes Travers made was radical, but essential. Off came the full stock fenders that the car wore when Kurtz bought it. Lucas wanted a traditional deuce highboy stance with that aggressive exposed wheel look that defined California hot rods. But there was a problem. California had anti-hot rod laws requiring cars to have fenders covering the wheels. The solution? A loophole that hot rodders had been using for years. Travers bolted on minimal cycle-type fenders, basically small motorcycle fenders that technically satisfied the legal requirement while maintaining the highboy aesthetic. These tiny fenders barely covered anything, but they were enough to keep cops from writing tickets during filming on public streets. This modification transformed the car's entire personality. Gone was the somewhat tame full-fendered street rod. In its place stood an aggressive bare-bones hot rod that looked ready to race. The highboy stance became one of the Coupe's most iconic features. Number 16. Quick and dirty yellow lacquer paint job. With the bodywork and modifications complete, the car needed paint. But this wasn't going to be a show-quality finish with multiple coats, careful color sanding, and mirror-perfect gloss. Lucas specifically wanted a quick and dirty yellow lacquer paint job that looked like something a teenager would shoot in his garage. The production didn't have time or money for perfection. They needed fast results that photographed well under lights. The yellow they chose was bright and eye-catching, perfect for standing out in night filming sequences. Lacquer was the paint of choice for hot rodders in the early 60s because it dried fast and had that deep wet look when fresh. The shop probably shot it in a weekend, maybe running a few coats without obsessive prep work. If you look closely at the car in the film, you can see imperfections. The paint isn't glass smooth, there are slight orange peel textures and minor flaws. But that's exactly what made it perfect for the character. This wasn't Milner's show car, it was his street racer. Number 15. Interior was dyed black instead of reupholstered. The red and white tuck and roll interior had to go, but completely reupholstering the car would eat up precious time and budget. Someone on the crew had a brilliant idea. Why not just dye it? The original upholstery was actually in excellent condition, professionally done with proper pleating and stitching. Ripping it out seemed wasteful when a simpler solution existed. The prop department bought commercial-grade vinyl dye and carefully applied it to transform the cheerful red and white into menacing black. The dye job was so well executed that even today most people assume the car was originally upholstered in black. You can only spot hints of the underlying red if you know exactly where to look in deep crevices. This quick fix saved the production about $2,000 and preserved beautifully crafted upholstery work. The black interior also photographed better during night scenes, reducing glare and keeping focus on the actors. Sometimes the smartest solution is the simplest and cheapest one. This modification took maybe a day compared to weeks for complete reupholstery. Number 14. Engine is either a 283 or 327 Chevy small block. Here's where things get interesting and slightly controversial among American graffiti enthusiasts. The exact displacement of the Chevy small block V8 under that hood remains disputed to this day. Early magazine articles from 1973 and 74 described it as a 283 cubic inch engine. But later articles, after the sequel More American Graffiti in 1979, started calling it a 327. Current owner Rick Figari has stated multiple times that the car has always had the same engine, and he believes it's a 283. So what's the truth? Most likely, it's been a 283 all along, and the 327 designation came from confused reporting or assumptions. The engine produces adequate power for the car's needs regardless of displacement. What matters more is how it was dressed up. Chrome valve covers, sprint car headers, and that rare intake manifold created the aggressive look Lucas wanted. The debate continues among superfans, but Figari's word carries weight since he's owned it longer than anyone. Number 13. Rare Manfrey intake manifold with 4 Rochester to barrel carburetors. Under the hood sits something genuinely special that even casual hot rod fans recognize as rare. The intake manifold is a Manfrey unit, a name most people have never heard unless they're deep into vintage speed equipment. This aluminum manifold was designed specifically to hold 4 Rochester to barrel carburetors in a row, creating an 8-barrel induction system that looked absolutely menacing. Manfrey was a small California company making limited production speed parts. Even in 1973, these manifolds were becoming scarce. Today, they're nearly impossible to find and command thousands of dollars when they occasionally surface. The 4 Rochester to G-carb sitting on top were common enough, being stock equipment on many GM vehicles. But seeing 4 of them lined up on that rare manifold created an iconic engine bay that hot rodders instantly recognized as serious business. Lucas specifically wanted this setup for its period-correct appearance and aggressive visual impact. That intake became one of the most copied details by tribute car builders. Number 12. Chrome sprint car style headers specified by Lucas himself. George Lucas didn't just hand off the car and say make it cool. He involved himself in specific details that would create the right look on camera. One of his personal specifications was how the exhaust headers should appear. Lucas wanted chrome sprint car-style headers that would emphasize the car's bold racing appearance. Sprint cars were, and still are, purpose-built dirt track race machines with exposed headers that look brutal and functional. That aesthetic perfectly matched what Lucas envisioned for Milner's street racer. The headers weren't hidden under the car like a street vehicle. They were front and center, chromed and visible, making a statement. Every time the hood was open or the camera showed a low-angle shot, those gleaming headers reinforced that this was a serious performance machine. The exhaust note they produced was equally important. That raw, raspy sound of open headers became part of the car's character. Lucas understood that cars in movies need to look fast and sound fast. Those headers delivered on both counts. Number 11. Super T10 for speed transmission for reliable performance. Behind that Chevy small blocks add a transmission chosen for both authenticity and reliability. The Super T10 for speed was a bulletproof gearbox that could handle serious abuse. This wasn't some fragile vintage transmission that might grenade during filming. The Super T10 was a workhorse used in performance applications throughout the 60s and early 70s. It could handle way more power than the Chevy engine produced and shift cleanly take after take. For movie work, reliability trumped period-perfect authenticity. The production couldn't afford transmission failures during night shoots when they had limited time and permits. The Super T10 delivered smooth shifts and could survive the kind of driving the film required. Paul Le Mat might not have been a stunt driver, but the car still needed to perform consistently. That transmission ensured that, whether they were cruising down the boulevard or staging for the drag race scene, the car would cooperate. Its robust construction meant Travers didn't have to constantly baby or repair it, it just worked. Number 10. 1957 Chevy rear end with 4.11 to 1 gears. The drivetrain's final component was chosen specifically for one purpose: brutal acceleration off the line. A 1957 Chevrolet rear end, housing a set of 4.11 to 1 gears, gave the Coupe drag racing launch capabilities. Those are seriously steep gears that prioritize acceleration over top speed or fuel economy. With that ratio, the engine would be screaming at highway speeds, probably turning close to 4,000 RPM at 70 miles per hour. But for stoplight to stoplight racing, which is what street racing was all about, those gears were perfect. First gear launches would snap your head back. The car would jump off the line like it was shot from a cannon. This wasn't a highway cruiser built for cross-country trips. This was a purpose-built street racer optimized for quarter-mile runs and showing off at traffic lights. The 57 Chevy rear end was a popular swap because it was strong enough to handle abuse and parts were everywhere. If something broke, any speed shop could get replacement components overnight. Number 9. Detachable camera platforms fabricated for filming interior scenes. Movie magic required some clever engineering that most viewers never think about. How do you film actors sitting inside a car while it's moving and capture their expressions clearly? The solution was ingenious detachable camera platforms custom fabricated to bolt onto the Coupe's frame rails. These steel platforms were designed to hold the heavy 1970s film cameras and camera operators without flexing or creating dangerous situations. They could be installed in about 20 minutes using existing frame mounting points, meaning no permanent modifications to the car. The main platform extended out from the rear like a diving board, allowing camera crew to sit behind the car and film forward through the back window. This captured those iconic shots of Paul Le Mat as Milner and Mackenzie Phillips as Carol talking while cruising. Another smaller platform attached to the front for reverse angle shots. Everything was painted flat black to disappear on camera. After filming wrapped, the platforms were removed and stored. Decades later, someone realized they were valuable movie memorabilia. These simple fabrications made the in-car scenes possible. Number 8. Henry Travers actually drove the Coupe during the drag race scene. Here's a piece of trivia that surprises even hardcore American graffiti fans. During the climactic Paradise Road drag race at sunrise, that's not Paul Le Mat behind the wheel of the yellow Coupe. It's transportation manager Henry Travers doing the actual high-speed driving. Insurance companies get nervous when lead actors do dangerous stunts in irreplaceable picture cars. LeMat handled all the close-ups and dialogue scenes where you can clearly see his face. But when the Coupe was really hauling down Paradise Road at speed, Travers took over wearing LeMat's costume. This wasn't unusual for Hollywood productions. What made it special was Travers' genuine enthusiasm for the role. He built and maintained this car through the entire production. Getting to race it on camera was probably a dream moment. Travers knew the car intimately, understood its quirks and capabilities. He could launch it cleanly, shift smoothly, and keep it under control at speed. The consistency between takes showed his experience. Each pass looked identical because a real driver was executing them. Number 7. Only 10 minutes of usable sunrise light for the drag race filming. The Paradise Road drag race scene required perfect dawn lighting to create that magical golden hour look. But sunrise waits for no one and cinematography schedules. Director of photography Haskell Wexler and George Lucas had approximately 10 minutes of usable light each morning where the sky had that specific blue-orange glow they wanted. This created enormous pressure on the entire crew. Everything had to be choreographed perfectly because there were no second chances until the next dawn 24 hours later. They tried for multiple mornings, dealing with weather and technical issues. When everything finally aligned, they had 6 cameras positioned at strategic angles along the road. Every actor, vehicle, and crew member was in position before the sun touched the horizon. Once that golden light appeared, they had to execute the race, the crash, and all reaction shots in one continuous sequence. The entire production held its breath. If a car stalled, a camera jammed, or an actor flubbed a line, they'd lose the shot. The crew had rehearsed like a military operation. When the magic moment arrived, they nailed it with minutes to spare. Number 6. Used again in more American Graffiti with new paint job. After the massive success of the original film, the Coupe sat on the Universal Studios lot for 6 years gathering dust. Then studio executives decided to cash in with a sequel. More American Graffiti brought the car out of retirement in 1979. But 6 years in storage had taken a toll. The original yellow lacquer paint had faded, checked, and deteriorated from sun exposure and neglect. The car needed refreshing before cameras could roll again. Universal sent it back to Orlandi's shop, the same place that did work on the original. They shot a new paint job in the same canary yellow color. But here's the difference that sharp-eyed enthusiasts notice. Instead of lacquer, they used acrylic enamel this time. California environmental regulations had changed in 6 years, and spraying lacquer wasn't as easy anymore. Enamel dried harder, but lacked that deep wet look lacquer provided. Under the right lighting conditions in the film, you can spot the difference. The paint looks slightly flatter, less dimensional. The sequel flopped at the box office, and the car was retired again, this time for good. Or so Universal thought. Number 5. Sold to Steve Fitch through sealed bid auction. After more American Graffiti bombed, Universal Studios decided to dump the car. Instead of a public auction where prices might get competitive, they chose a sealed bid process. Interested buyers submitted their best offer in a sealed envelope. Highest bid wins, no negotiation, no second chances. Steve Fitch, a car collector who'd already acquired the black '55 Chevy from the film, wanted the Coupe badly. Sealed bids are tricky. Bid to low, and you lose to someone willing to pay more. Bid to high and you overpay with no way to adjust. Fitch did his homework, estimated what others might bid, and submitted his number. When Universal opened the envelopes, Fitch won. The exact amount he paid remains unclear, with sources citing different figures, but it was likely in the low thousands. This was 1979, before movie cars commanded the insane prices they do today. Fitch owned both iconic American Graffiti cars, a collector's dream. He maintained them and occasionally showed them, but eventually the young superfan named Rick Figari started calling. Number 4. Rick Figari purchased the car in 1985 at age 20. Rick Figari first saw American Graffiti when he was 8 years old and became instantly obsessed with that yellow coupe. As a teenager and young adult, That obsession never faded. When he learned Steve Fitch owned the actual movie car, Figari started a persistent campaign to buy it. He made offer after offer, wore Fitch down with enthusiasm and genuine love for the car. In 1985, Fitch finally agreed to sell. Figari was only 20 years old, but he had saved his money and was ready. Most 20-year-olds would have immediately started modifying their new toy, adding modern upgrades, fixing imperfections. Not Figari. He understood he wasn't just buying a car, he was becoming a caretaker of automotive history. His maturity and respect for the Coupe's significance was remarkable for someone so young. That decision to preserve rather than improve would prove crucial. Figari drove the car regularly at first, using it as daily transportation while attending school. Eventually, as he realized its historical and monetary value, he drove it less frequently and focused on preservation and public appearances. Number 3. Roy Brizio's shop restored it to roadworthy condition. When Figari bought the Coupe, it needed work. 6 years of storage, followed by the sequel followed by more storage, had left it mechanically neglected. It ran, but barely. Figari needed the car properly restored to reliable running condition without altering its movie appearance. He contacted Roy Brizio's shop in South San Francisco, one of the most respected hot rod builders in Northern California. Brizio understood the assignment perfectly. This wasn't a full restoration where you tear everything down and rebuild. This was careful preservation work, fixing what needed fixing while leaving originality intact. They went through the mechanical systems, replaced worn components, addressed reliability issues. The engine was tuned properly for the first time in years. The transmission and rear end were serviced. Brakes were rebuilt to actually stop the car safely. The suspension was checked and adjusted. Cosmetically, they touched up paint chips and cleaned decades of grime, but didn't refinish anything. The result was a car that looked exactly like it did in the film, but now ran properly and could be driven without constant breakdowns. Brizio's work allowed Figari to actually use and enjoy the car. Number 2. Henry Travers gave Figari the original THX 138 license plates. One of the most treasured pieces of American graffiti memorabilia came to Figari as a gift from the man who built the car. Transportation manager Henry Travers had kept the Coupe's THX 138 cardboard license plates after filming Wrapped in 1973. These weren't metal DMV plates, they were movie props made from cardboard that could be easily attached and removed. THX 138 was George Lucas' signature Easter egg, referencing his first film. Those plates appeared in multiple shots throughout American graffiti and became iconic. Travers held on to them for over a decade, preserving them carefully. When Figari became the new owner and showed his genuine passion for maintaining the car's legacy, Travers decided the plates belonged with the Coupe. He gave them to a very appreciative Figari who understood their significance. Having the actual license plates from the film, given by the man who oversaw the car's original construction, connected Figari directly to the movie's history. Those cardboard rectangles are priceless pieces of cinema history. Number 1. Most duplicated 1932 Ford in hot rod history. Walk into any decent-sized hot rod show in America, and you'll probably spot at least one, maybe 3, or for American graffiti tribute cars. Despite all its quirks and imperfections, Milner's Coupe became the most replicated 32 Ford ever built. Companies manufacture complete reproduction body kits specifically designed to build graffiti clones. Entire online communities exist where builders trade information about paint codes, upholstery patterns, exact wheel specifications. People obsess over getting the grille shell height perfect, finding the right valve covers, sourcing Manfrey intake replicas. Some builders spend $20,000 and years of work recreating every detail down to the dents and scratches. Why this particular car? Because it represented attainable cool. It wasn't some $1 million show queen or exotic custom. It looked like something a real kid could build with junkyard parts and determination. That authenticity resonated with hot rodders who saw themselves in John Milner. The Coupe proved you didn't need perfection to be legendary. 50 years later, its influence on hot rod culture remains stronger than ever. Lucas created an icon by accident. Which of these 20 facts surprised you the most? Hit subscribe for more legendary movie car deep dives.